Hyazinth Graf Strachwitz was born in 1893 into an old Silesian noble family whose roots stretched back for centuries. His childhood was shaped by wide fields, forests, and the traditions of a class that believed deeply in duty, discipline, and honor. From a young age he loved horses, riding, and the thrill of moving fast across open land. Those who knew him as a boy noticed both boldness and stubborn will, traits that would follow him far beyond the quiet estate where he grew up. As he entered adulthood, the world around him was already shifting. The empires of Europe were uneasy, and when the First World War erupted in 1914, Strachwitz joined the German army as an officer in a cavalry regiment. He was still young, but he seemed to come alive in the chaos of battle. He showed unusual courage, sometimes bordering on reckless, and his superiors recognized his talent for quick thinking under pressure. He was wounded several times, yet returned to the front after each recovery. By the time the war ended in 1918, he had earned respect among officers and soldiers alike, though Germany's defeat left him and millions of others facing an uncertain future. The years after the war were hard for many families in the former German Empire, and Strachwitz's world was no exception. The old order had collapsed, the economy struggled, new politics, some hopeful and some dangerous, filled the streets. During this time he tried to hold on to the identity he had always known, that of a traditional soldier. He remained connected to military life through reserve service and training programs and continued to develop his knowledge of tactics. Although Germany was limited in its military abilities after the Treaty of Versailles, he stayed active in the circles of officers who still believed in armored warfare and modern tactics. When the Second World War began in 1939, Strachwitz re-entered military service at full strength, now as a seasoned officer with experience and a reputation for strong leadership. He joined an armored unit and quickly showed that he understood tank warfare in a way that felt natural and instinctive. The old cavalry rider seemed to have transferred his sense of speed and maneuver from horse to machine. He knew how to break through defenses, how to read terrain, and how to use surprise as a tool. During the invasion of Poland, he led armored elements with great success. He stood in the open turret of his tank, calm under pressure, giving clear orders even in clouds of dust and gunfire. His actions during this early campaign caught the attention of higher command, and he continued rising through the ranks. The following year brought the invasion of France, where German armored tactics surprised much of the world. Strachwitz again proved himself skilled at leading fast-moving units. His sense of timing and ability to take advantage of sudden openings made his battalion effective on the move. Though the campaign was short compared to others in the war, it further demonstrated that he was not simply brave, but tactically sharp. The real test of his abilities came in 1941, when Germany launched its massive invasion of the Soviet Union. The Eastern Front was unlike anything the world had seen. Vast distances, harsh climate, and fighting on a scale that dwarfed the battles of Western Europe. Strachwitz served in Panzer Regiment 2 of the elite 16th Panzer Division. He and his men moved deep into Soviet territory, capturing towns, cutting off enemy units, and punching holes through defensive lines. He became known as a commander who thrived in uncertain conditions. When roads turned to mud or maps proved unreliable, he adjusted. When supply shortages hit, he found ways to keep moving. His soldiers said he had a gift for sensing the enemy's weak point, almost like a hunter feeling the shift in the wind. During these early years, the German advance seemed unstoppable, and Strachwitz's bold leadership played a role in that momentum. But the tide of war began to turn. The winter of 1941 and the fierce Soviet resistance slowed the German advance, and the front line hardened into a brutal struggle for survival. Even in these difficult conditions, Strachwitz continued to show the same energy and creativity. He launched counterattacks with only a few tanks, broke encirclements, and guided trap units to safety. His ability to pull order from chaos earned him respect beyond his own division. In 1942 and 1943, the war reached a new level of severity. The Battle of Stalingrad ended in a devastating German defeat. Soviet forces pushed forward everywhere they could. Units were exhausted, short on fuel and ammunition, and often overwhelmed by superior numbers. Strachwitz's skills became even more valuable during this desperate phase. In battles near Kharkov, he led powerful counterstrikes that temporarily restored broken sections of the line. His battalion knocked out enemy tanks, destroyed supply columns, and gave the German army time to regroup. These actions brought him some of the highest military honors that Germany awarded, and his name became well known among both armored units and senior command. Despite this recognition, he remained a field officer at heart. He preferred being close to his soldiers, seeing the ground with his own eyes, and making decisions from direct experience rather than distant reports. He trusted instinct and courage more than theory. One of the most dramatic chapters of his career came in 1944 in the Baltic region. As Soviet forces pressed harder, Strachwitz organized a series of armored thrusts intended to break up enemy formations and slow their advance. These attacks were risky, fast, and aggressive, reflecting his style as a commander. At times he operated with minimal forces, relying on speed and surprise rather than numbers. Some of these actions succeeded brilliantly. Others cost him wounds and losses that could not be replaced. By this point, Germany's strategic situation was beyond repair, no matter how skilled the commander. Strachwitz himself suffered serious injuries, including concussions and shrapnel wounds, which increasingly pulled him away from the front. In the final year of the war, he was physically worn and deeply aware that Germany could no longer win. Even so, he carried out his duties with the same determination he had shown since the first days of the conflict. When Germany finally collapsed in 1945, he was captured not by Soviet forces but by the Americans. This proved to be a stroke of immense fortune. Many officers taken by the Red Army faced long imprisonment or death. The Americans held him for a period and then released him. For the first time in his adult life, he faced a world without armies, without rank, and without the land he once called home. His home region of Silesia had been taken over by Poland, and many German families were expelled. The old aristocratic world into which he had been born had vanished, yet Strachwitz did not withdraw into bitterness. Instead, he used his status and remaining resources to support displaced people, help communities rebuild, and give aid when he could. He lived modestly compared to his youth, but carried himself with the same upright posture and calm focus that had marked him on the battlefield. He remained connected to former comrades, many of whom saw in him a symbol of the old officer tradition, shaped by duty and personal courage rather than politics. Even though he had served a regime responsible for immense suffering, his personal behavior as a commander was remembered as disciplined and focused solely on military objectives. Historians later studied his tactics as examples of highly effective mobile warfare. Officers from various countries found value in his methods, even if they judged the war itself harshly. Strachwitz rarely spoke about his wartime experiences in detail, perhaps because he understood how much had been lost on all sides. He carried the weight of the men who had died under his command and the heavy knowledge that bravery alone could not change the course of a conflict shaped by vast political forces. As years passed, he lived quietly, surrounded by surviving family and friends who knew him as more than the armored commander described in history books. He died in 1968, leaving behind a complicated legacy. He had been one of Germany's most skilled tank leaders, a fearless officer who inspired loyalty, a nobleman who lost his world, and a man shaped by two global wars that reshaped the planet. His life was not defined simply by victory or defeat, but by how he met the challenges placed in front of him. The boy who loved riding across open fields became a commander who drove armored columns across continents. The officer who once charged on horseback ended his career commanding machines capable of leveling entire city blocks. Today, those who study him see a figure formed by his era, with all the strengths and flaws that came with it. They see someone who mastered the art of armored warfare, someone who led from the front, and someone whose experiences mirror the rise and fall of a country caught in the most destructive conflict in human history. His story reminds us that individuals can shine brightly even within dark chapters of the past, and that leadership, courage, and skill do not erase the larger consequences of the wars in which they are used. Yet within his lifetime, through victory and defeat, Hyazinth Graf Strachwitz remained recognizable as the same determined boy from Silesia, always ready to push forward, always ready to face danger head-on, and always carrying the quiet weight of the world he had known before war consumed it. Thanks for watching. If you have a thought about Hyazinth Graf Strachwitz, drop a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.